Overcast, the podcast beyond World of Warcraft.
This is the fifth episode.
The fifth episode, yeah. All right. Oh, you can
go. Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, fifth.
2, 1. All right, we're keeping this in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fifth episode of MoCast. Here today with a very recurring special guest that you've probably seen the title, but
it's a very singing voice, very soothing voice. I always compliment him on his voice. Please give a round welcome to Mr. SoulSoBreezy.
We're just gonna say. I'm just gonna say.
Hey, what's up, guys?
That's soul for you.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
you're on camera. Smile.
Hey there.
Welcome
How you guys
back, Soul.
doing? Yeah, feeling really good, guys. Really masculine.
What's up?
Here we go.
You gotta understand.
How did you start your week, man?
Well, I was singing, and then some
I'm sorry.
interrupted me and all that. But no, I've been good. I've had a fantastic couple weeks. There's been just so much going on with like all the Blizzard stuff, and then all sorts of exciting things like an eye infection and other skin infections, and went to the doctor multiple times. And surprise, that was kind of a zinger. But I'm doing good.
Apart from that,
apart from that, fantastic, wonderful, swimmingly.
Well, it's great. It's great to hear, man. And I've been watching. I'm watching other WoW content creators, unlike some people I know.
Yeah,
and
I don't watch anybody.
I was looking at your shit, man. Like last time we talked, you've done some major progress, my dude. You've hit the 50K mark. I don't know if we covered this on the previous episode, but I think you were somewhere at around 30-ish when we first talked. That's a pretty huge improvement, dude. Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, like with all the like there's been massive coverage of like when did we talk? It's 6 years ago, something like that.
Yeah,
Gulf War.
It was wild. But was WoW even released when we talked?
Oh yeah. It's been like forever. So with so much news that had come out, there's been so many of us in the content creator space that were like, oh, I wanna, plant my flag and make my territory, get my piece of the pie, all that sort of stuff. And I think that I've been able to capture that with basic stuff, helpful guides, ways to try to help people get along with their day or their week. And then like small updates here and there with my take on it. From that, I'm not very skilled at the game. So, coming from that sort of level, hey guys, here's what we can do. Don't worry too much about, knocking out like 15s and all that stuff. Hardly anyone does it anyway, but whatever. And going with that angle has been really effective, along with, of course, covering all the discourse and the conversations that have been going around about, things that we like and don't like and things that we would love to see in the game. And Blizzconline it's proven to be a lot of fuel to for more of that discourse and things that we want more of or less of.
I mean, yeah, we're definitely going to touch upon Blizzconline for sure. The thing is, I know one of the biggest pieces of content you put out since Shadowlands launch was the weekly thing, like week 1, week 2, week 3, that series. That personally helped me a lot. And get the drift on everything that's about to happen. And I see you're still doing that, and that sort of felt like you're tapping into maybe some new territory, more or less, in the terms of the content creation or whatever. And now I'm curious, like from everything that you've tried so far, you had the news, you had some breakdowns, flash news, flash stuff. But what is like the most favorite thing you like to do in terms of video creation out of everything you tried so far? What gives you like the most satisfaction?
The things that give me the most satisfaction, it would be me wanting to share ideas about game design, things that I would love to see in the world of Warcraft. My kind of complaining and discourse and that sort of thing. Now the weekly stuff, it's there to develop presence. It gets it's an easy click. it gets people to subscribe for more of this and all things Warcraft. And when I first wanted to make that, I did like the week 1 and week 2, and then it blew up, and I was like, oh, this seems like it can be a thing. And then my immediate thought was, okay, I gotta make it to like week 69. I have to make it
69. All right.
to week 69, and then I peaked. Then I could be like, you know what? I think I'm good, guys.
That's it. Drop the mic.
Yeah, let the Shadowlands lull begin. Peace out. But as for what I want to do, what I enjoyed the most doing, it's mostly talking about game design. I do have something coming up where I want to talk about more. I've been a big proponent of player housing this, player housing that. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, you have the flag
Does
up for
anyone
player
else know?
housing. Yeah.
Let's talk about this for about 48 minutes. But I also wanted to take it at a different angle, because part of my whole thing on player housing is I want to have achievements, achievements and collection systems to have more of a meaning than just, hey, look at my UI, guys. It's at like 98%. I just need 2 more %, and then I'm great at the game. But I want something that is, I want something that's a bit more tangible, and that's where player housing would fit that need. However, there's a little bit more that we can do to introduce more flavor into the world that also celebrates the achievements and the things that we have done in game. And I'm talking about like little things, like let's pretend, the second floor of Ouroboros, that donut, it's like a big empty area.
True.
Where the only purpose of it is for them little spermy worm things to like travel all around Shadowlands. And I remember in Dalaran days, back in the Legion days, if you get onto a flying mount, if you get onto the taxi mount from Dalaran, and you fly to a location, it will take your favorite mount, if you have any of your favorites checked, and then it'll like go to whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be awesome. Nice little bit of flavor to take like a whole bunch of mounts and just have them dotted all over the place in Orbos, like a bunch of flying mounts, and then same thing, like you hop into a portal to Revendreth or whatever, and then it'll choose one of those mounts. So it's like little things like that, where I would love to see like the collection system in WoW present itself in game, like all over the place, to show like what you have done. Like if you go into a familiar area, you see pets, like your pets walking around, or your mounts in a stable, or things like that. Like think of like the Order Hall 2, where if you collect a certain number of sets, you would see those sets hanging on a paper doll.
Yeah, that's right.
And I would love to see like little bits of flavor there that make little tiny slices of this World of Warcraft feel like they're yours. Because right now, all that stuff is limited to a UI and a collection list, or all the things UI, and that doesn't feel like enough. I think small things like that would really go a long way to make the world feel like it's ours.
It's very true.
That's the kind of stuff I love talking about.
You know what I was thinking, like right as you were saying this, it reminded me of the Garrison, where you had the achievement statues, which I really never got into, but those could be transformed into either mounts that you have collected, like maybe prestige things, or maybe like bosses from past raids or something like that. So whatever player housing they decide to make, or whatever stuff like this they want to put out into the world, where they can transform your collection to something that's a little bit more, let's say, living, they can use it, as kind of like how they use statues in the Garrison, where you can, I don't know, you have like a little stand thing, and you just select what can show there. And I mean, that's kind of cool, right? If you're the party leader, then everybody in the party can see it when they go to that place. You know how it was with the Garrisons, where you could, if you're in a party with a friend, you could visit his Garrison. How did I go? Something like that, right? So you can just have your collection or your achievements or whatever you wanted to, showcase your prestige. Can be something living that other people can see as maybe something like that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like we see so much of the, these end game pillars, the PvPs and the raiding and dungeons and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, what so many people will do together, or even people will have streams of just collecting mounts, collecting pets, farming for achievements and things like that. But being able to do more than just that, and be able to express that, like if you could, like, imagine like there'd be like a whole YouTube series of like a dude be like, "Hey, what's up, guys? This is Soul. I'm gonna check out this dude's house. He invited me in. We're gonna show you his shit."
Yeah, that was a super cool idea.
it's a whole episode of Chris. It's like, oh man, check it out, man. He has a pool of lava and he's got like little Ragnaros babies coming out. Oh my god, this is so freaking rad, man. You know, and it would be so like hokey and it would have that Cribs feel and be so corny, but people would love to be able to be featured, or people would love to just be able to decorate like their place to have this feel and personality that is entirely their own. Like if you want to have like you know, a crazy sex dungeon and you want to have like nothing but naked bodies lined up along the walls, and it's like, wow,
Jane occasion,
you're weird. You know. But if people want to express themselves that way,
Sure.
or just have their particular character, yeah, that character, yeah, he's really weird. You know, just let him or her, you know, let those characters be what they want to be through those collections, and not just transmog. It just feels so limited these days because we have thousands and thousands of pieces of transmog, pets and nuts and etceteras, that it doesn't feel like enough to just have it. I want to like do something with like.
Showcase
How many
it.
mounts? If I recall correctly, there's like 80 some mounts that are introduced in Shadowlands 9.0. That's a lot. And how many of those have people used? Probably not all of them. Probably hardly any of them. I know I haven't. I know I've gone back to using my trusted, you know, polar bear that poops out the snowballs and stuff. I've been going to that every
It's
time because it's awesome. But in the meantime, I've been collecting all these mounts that ultimately don't do anything but fill up that number. That's it.
Yeah.
And I really I will push this until the day the server shut down. That this should be in the game, or it should have been in the game. Why, Blizzard? Why didn't you listen to me? Yeah.
It sounds like this idea, like the way you envision it. First of all, taking like the actual numbers game, because at this point it is a bunch of numbers and text, your collections, and you really underlined it perfectly there. But my only, like, I don't know, question or concern is, would the current WoW engine be able to produce such a thing where you could be able to personalize some sort of space for your own, with all the database that is containing all these achievements, mounts, so I don't know, transmogs or whatever. I feel like, do you think the current engine or further development of this current old/new engine would be able to do such a thing? Or do you think it would be more an opportunity for a brand new game of WoW?
No and yes. Mostly, you know, and when I mean no, I mean like, oh, let's have like a WoW 2.0. I don't buy into that because we're at WoW 9.0 at this point, and with each iteration, there's been more and more buildup here and there.
Yeah.
The idea of setting up, hey, let's just plot player housing. It's so easy. No, it's fucking not. It's tremendous. It's tremendous amount of work. It's insanely hard. It will require like a huge investment and a huge risk in part of Blizzard. Personally, I think it's worth it because this is something that caters to the casual audience, which I would argue is the majority. The majority does not raid or do Mythic Plus or do dungeons and stuff. They just bum around like, what the fuck am I doing, guys? Hey, look, there's things to get. Let's do it.
There's the people running around in Oribos, right? Those guys?
Exactly.
Guilty.
So like, people
I
that
was
are
looking
just,
for
like,
the
doing hella
Bruisaurs,
farm.
right?
Yeah. It's you know, that's what I would say the majority would do. But the amount of work that would be put into it, it's something that I can't quantify. I have too small of a brain to like really even have like an idea of the sort of work that it entails. It's more than just, yeah, dude, we just have chairs here. They already have the chairs. Let's just copy and paste it into player housing. It simply does not work like that. But there are so many different instances of kinds of player housing out there that could possibly work. But I don't believe that we'll be able to, like, brick by brick build our own home in the exact shape that we want to. I would definitely anticipate something like prefabs, pre-built homes, where we can just, like, you know, select this wall, and then on this wall you can put a shelf, a statue, a picture, a poster, a shower. I don't know why you would have a shower, but you can have like all those different things slotted into these areas, and then just kind of go from there. And then you know, you would unlock these things somehow, some way, whether it's professions, achievements, farming for materials, getting boss heads and mounting them all. There's so many ways to go about it. And I want to think that Blizzard is at least toying with the idea that, hey, you know what, maybe we should cater a little bit more to the casual audience. And I think they did a good bit of that with the Covenant Sanctum system. I think that it's I think that as its first real go ahead at like long-term casual endgame, that it's a good shot. The people that are complaining about it, at least in my observations, are the same people that raid, do Mythic Plus, do dungeons, and they're like, dude, we need to get this thing faster. We need to farm this anima faster. Where's our anima catch-up, Blizz? But in the end, it's like, what are you rushing for? So you can complete this set a little bit faster, so you can get bored a little bit faster. I mean, if that's your deal, that's cool, but you're not exactly the target audience here. This is something that is meant to be like super long term, unless they wanted to like time gate everything. Like, oh, we'll release one set here, space it out. I don't think they wanted to do that. They just wanted to have this thing for a more casual audience to play with. And it's okay to complain about it if it's not fast enough, but I think you also got to realize that it's not necessarily for you. Just like I, as a casual player, can I really complain? Man, you know what? Mythic needs to be easier so I can play it. That's not what I'm trying.
We're talking here about the Covenant sets, right?
Yeah. So we're not trying to get to that. We're just trying to get the right people to enjoy the right content.
I feel the pacing of the anima thing and everything, I think is pretty okay. I mean, when talking about the catch up systems and how everything was paced out in Shadowlands, I think they pretty much hit the mark, and it's easy to see it that way coming from, I don't know, BFA. BFA had some good things, had some bad things, but I feel so far so good. I mean, anima is really not the biggest concern. I think one of the biggest complaints still is the fact that people will still be choosing their super bliss covenant for that 0.2% DPS, and that's never going to go away. I mean, you'll always have that crowd of people doing that. But the trend always was, at least at least from Legion, they always gave into all of these systems. Eventually, they made easy catch-ups for everything, including BFA. Well, we can argue if BFA was easy or not, but still, it was sort of the same thing. But going back into the player housing thing, it's clear that's going to be a hard thing to do, and we can argue that the first attempt was Garrisons, right? Was that project didn't really turn out to be the greatest thing, but they have the technology from Garrisons. They still have, I'm pretty sure they still have the code somewhere, right? If they would take that and develop it, I don't know, into the next expansion, or even make it like, I don't know, a 4-year plan, right? Okay, we're not putting player housing in back into the Void or Revenge of the Void expansion or whatever the fuck the next one is. We're putting it in Illidan and Arthur's Best Buddies expansion 4 years from now. And that would be like,
what about the beach expansion? You gotta have like the Thrall beach expansion, and like the final tier is like the super concert with like their kids' like favorites.
Shit!
That's my favorite pop star, Thrall Daddy. I want to go to that. And Thrall's like, okay, fine, we'll go to the fucking concerts. Champions, I need tickets, and then you're gonna be spending line and ticket. Anyway,
it's actually a good idea, a good spin-off for the lore.
I was about to say mobile game. I was about to say with the player housing, because they actually said it, they actually have the tools to do that kind of stuff if they really wanted to, if they really had the time or resources to do it, because it would have to be instanced. So we have garrisons for that, and we also have the what they added at the end of Legion with the Bronze Dragonflight NPCs, where you can change the zone back to a different timeline, where you're either the sword is in Silithus or not, or Undercity has been destroyed or not, so we can have that. And I was thinking maybe they could do something like, I don't know, a town in Eastern Kingdoms or in Kalimdor, where you can it's instant for you, and if you want it to be part of the questline or whatever you would normally do there, you have the little NPC there, and then you can turn like that town, it would be yours, and you can customize the house. That's the raiding house, and you can showcase like bosses in terms of statues, like, oh, I killed that boss, then I have that ahead of the curve, or cutting edge or whatever. And that can be something like for the PV and PvP elitists as well. What I think about this is because when you guys talk about this, I'm thinking about how they've designed the latest expansions, because this has to be like a totally separate system from whatever expansion they're doing.
It's the big seller.
It cannot be a Covenant Sanctum. It cannot be an Order Hall. It has to be something separate, like how it was when they added Pet Battles. Pet Battles was when would they added this Pandaria?
Pandaria. That was
yeah.
missed.
It had nothing to do with the story or with the systems of the expansion. It was just something extra. And I don't know if we had anything extra for a long time. This is just in terms of the game design. When was the last time that we had something extra that it didn't feel like, oh, this ties into the story, and once the expansion is gone, we don't have it anymore. It doesn't cross over into the next expansion. So I think that maybe they should start to do something like this, like enriching their old world with something extra. Doesn't really have to do with what they're trying to do with that particular expansion, and then they don't have to worry about it taking it out or finding a replacement for them in the next expansion. And I think they've just been boxed into making this, okay, this is a 3-patch expansion, we have to make this that works for those 3 patches, and then when 10.0 hits, it's gone, it's disabled, it's grayed out or whatever. So I don't know, maybe they need to like revisit that, and at least as far as I could tell, they've had a pretty healthy attitude, at least compared to BFA when it came to game design, when they said something like, okay, we have the new 9.0, 9.1 soulbinds and conduits that we want to think about, let's test them out, and you guys tell us if you like it and we can change them around. When was the last time that they did this, right? Like, we have this, but you can choose how we do it, right? It's a new thing.
In order to enable something like player housing, or to enable a side system like this, it needs to be done from like the top, from the top down. There needs to be like a grand vision. Like, it needs to be kind of based on an expansion, but kind of not. And so I'm coming at this whole subject in a number of different directions, and one of the big directions is story. Another thing that I'm working on, and I barely started writing like blueprints on it, or I'm still kind of piecing these things together, is that ever since Cataclysm, I remember at the end of the Cataclysm, you see like Alistraz and like all the Dragonflight people, they're like, oh, okay, you beat the big bad guy, and Alistraz says, now begins the age of mortals, and it's like, ooh, mysterious.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, that's great. Yeah. But what actually happened? We went to Pandaland, and then we went here, and then we went there, and then we went to space, and now we're in the land of the dead. And it's been escalated into greater threats and crazier things, and I don't see it as an age of mortals. I see this as an age of conflict, constant, never-ending conflict without any room for the story to breathe. Like, imagine this. Imagine if at the end of Legion there was an expansion that was just based on the sword being stuck in Azeroth's booty. We could have had something like that, some long thing, this whole thing where we're trying to decipher like the meaning of the sword, like where did it come from, what can we unlock, can we unlock the secrets of it, can we go inside of it, and all of a sudden it's a raid. Oh, how could we have a raid in a sword? It's because it's freaking huge. Or like have a dungeon inside the sword, and we there could be so much content that comes from like these little bits of story that could be stretched out, but at the same time allow the rest of the story to breathe and react to things. And even with that sort of expansion, it could still transition into the Battle for Azeroth just the same way, because at least we would have this period where the Horde and Alliance were like kind of okay with each other, but then towards the end of it, we're less okay with each other. And then the events of Before the Storm could have actually happened. We would actually go into the Battle for Azeroth, and then after Battle for Azeroth, we can maybe let the story breathe a little bit again. But obviously, it's too late for that. Yeah. But now we're at the end, we're going to approach at some point the end of Shadowlands. I'm going to anticipate that we're going to have a happy ending, where Sylvanas' head is on a stick, or she's off happy ending, or she's off hanging out with Kerrigan and like their little haha suckers, doing their thing. But again, let the story breathe. Why don't we have our little beach expansion? Why don't we have like a break to deal with localized threats, things that are no less deadly, things that don't, that can still feel challenging, but we don't need a gimmicky system this time around, guys. We could just have like a more traditional system of just having tiers and tier sets and things like that. But it'll give that time for Blizzard to be like, okay, let's make something like player housing. So that way, let's pretend new expansion starts and you decide to make a new character. You go through that whole Exiles Reach introduction, and then the human or the orc person that's guiding you around the capital is like, oh, thanks for going on our tour with us. I hope you like the city. By the way, come over here, guys. And then they lead you over to like this dilapidated house. This is going to be your house because during the events of Exiles Reach, you did some good shit, champion, and we're going to give you this house. The person that was here before, he's dead. But you know what? Now it's yours because you know what? You need a place to stay because it would be really stupid if we let you go around the world, perhaps even save it a couple times, perhaps go back in time and up into space and up to the land of the dead and come back, and you still don't have a home. That would be really stupid, wouldn't it, champion? And so here you go. And it could be like this really cool and friendly system. Account wide, you could just gather stuff. You can revisit places that you've been to before. They can go all in with with more time walking raids. They can take time to do that. They can take the time to do all the vanilla time walking, vanilla dungeons, and turn those into time walking things. There's so much that they can do if they just let themselves pause the story for just a little bit to let things catch up, not just for the story and the characters to deal with everything and all these changes that are around them, but also on the development side, let them catch up with all these things that they could do and kind of finish, because there's a lot of stuff we can get caught up on. And then on top of that, perhaps go with something risky that embraces its largest and most the largest audience, the casual folks, and see if they're interested in something that is more about collections than power. Because that's been, I think that was the big mistake with Garrisons, is that it was tied too much into production, player power, and people felt the need to do it. And I don't think player housing should be something that you need to do. Yeah. You're just like, oh, well, the OCD in me is like, okay, I want to knock that out once I knock off all the other stuff. Let's go ahead and do it. And they might find it fun, or they might just find it to be something they can make money off of. I've totally drunk my own Kool-Aid, which sounds really gross, but I totally believe in the idea. I'm just going to keep pushing it.
And I believe like the logic behind it and the fantasy of it really rings a bell. And I know you've been like carrying the flag for the Soul player house thing in WoW since like forever. I don't know, man. I feel like the philosophy of WoW is currently, and with all love for Ian, I just feel he's the type of dude that thinks the biggest motivation for the majority of the player base is the next big system, the next big thing, the next big power as a player, as opposed to, what, you kind of argued, right? He has this thing, I feel like since he stepped in as game director, he almost not almost all the expansions had some big ass power for you to harness, rather than having something that isn't really mandatory to do. Sure, Shadowlands has some not required stuff, but you still have that big ass carrot on the stick. This is the next big power you need to chase and have it for you to be able to conquer the new threats. And I truly believe that a breathing period would be of great value. It would probably be super risky though for them, because at this point they kind of like established the method, right? The method to madness for WoW, the formula, yeah. And it would be quite risky. And I don't know. I think maybe under the old leadership they probably would do this, because Mists of Pandaria was a big fucking risk. They said so. I don't think the current management, and not going to talk too much about hating on Activision or whatever, but I don't believe they're as open on taking these types of risks as the older management would have been. So,
well, I mean, we are seemingly moving into a direction where the management doesn't seem to have their leash as tight around the developers as it was seemingly before, considering that we don't really have release dates anymore. It's not like it was once 20 years ago or whatever, but it's clearly not, by 12 June we'll have 9.0, 9.1 out, or we're gonna release Diablo 2 Resurrected in December 2021. We don't have that anymore. It's like by that time, and then it kind of feels like they realized, okay, maybe the direction that we had our stuff in wasn't the best. We had some bad PR and we're trying to. That's kind of how I see it. I decided I'm a little bit hopeful. But to your point, guys, it's obvious at least is that WoW right now is a lot of, like Soul said, things that you need to do, things that you have to do. It's no longer an open world MMO where you can make your own stories. What happened to that? I think we started to slowly lose that with each expansion, where it felt like there was this big ass thread that you needed to conquer and a system that you needed to harness and whatever you need to do to get that. You need to do this. You need to grind Anima. You need to grind Azrai power. You need to grind the order resources or whatever. But like I said, it's like, what happened to like, oh, I just want to go into that zone and see what quests we have and just get a sort of that. That just trailed away. I think, like Marcin said, it's just a carrot on a stick, because I don't know, they don't feel comfortable or confident in the world that they designed, that they're just gonna keep people hooked.
Well, it ain't vanilla anymore.
Yeah. But it felt like, and you know, the everything being so instant so much, feels like the game kind of developed a law from the point where we could just have things that are not.
It is a theme park MMO. It's not open world, so you're always gonna have that. I just feel like Soul said, if they would at least balance the concepts a bit more to casuals as well, and introduce stuff in the game that is being catered purely for that casual gameplay, that would be a lot of win for both sides. Because even the most hardcore PvPer or Mythic Raider at some point gets burned the fuck out, and he just wants to do some, I don't know, pet battles, or maybe decorate his house or whatever within WoW. That will be a great win for them too. I can guarantee it.
So I'm going to play like devil's advocate for a moment and kind of agree with like some of the current Blizzard philosophy that keeping things fresh and engaging helps. It helps to keep people kind of stimulated, because it's like, oh, there's something new to think of. There's something new to dream up, and
it's their formula,
theory craft, and you know, and they have this whole formula. They just redress it into something else in order to keep up the monthly active users and things like that. Because if it wasn't like that, if it was a lot more static, then we would be able to deconstruct these things on a moment's notice. And you know, when we find out, oh, this new expansion, it's going to have another, you know, another couple raids and no crazy power up system, it's going to quickly feel stale, or at least that's what that's what Blizzard has done. They've made it so that, if they don't release anything new or exciting, then man, that might not feel very good. So they kind of like designed themselves in, you know, like you guys, what we're saying, they designed themselves into a bit of a corner where they have to keep making these new and fangled things that are temporary, but it keeps people like entertained for a little bit. It gets add-on creators to like make new things. It gets Wowhead to make new systems on their database to track all these things. But at the end of the day, you know, we all just want to, you know, be engaged and stimulated with a certain something. Shadowlands and like the other systems, or I'm sorry, the other expansions with all these fangled systems and features, at the end of the day, it's done its job at keeping a good chunk of us engaged. But I just can't help but think of like everyone else. You know, what about the other people who don't care for these sorts of systems? Because because my audience is usually the more casual crowd, I regularly get comments from people. I don't raid. I don't do Mythic Plus. I don't do dungeons. What is there for me? And I'll see people reply to these commenters, and I feel kind of bad for them, because they're like, dude, you don't do any of those things? What the fuck's the point? What the hell are you doing here? Play a different game. Go and play Sims or whatever. But that's the whole point. There is that audience that doesn't do any of those things, that still want to feel engaged. Then I'm glad that Ian and his ilk had talked, hey, you know, we do want to talk about world content and having something for people to chase, even if they don't do group content. It's a fair thing. It's also, God, I'm like so all over the place with this, but it sucks that it splits Blizzard into all these different directions, and in their quest to try to please everybody, they will only succeed at pleasing nobody.
Yeah.
Because
that's kind of how
because of their philosophies. But for better or worse, they still hold on to. They still command like such a large following of people. You know, they do something, people listen. You know, they introduce something, it gets lots of attention. And so it's. I just really hope that they that they've been taking all this feedback to heart, and that at some point they decide, hey, you know what, we need to like they need to like slow down for a little bit, from a story and a design perspective, and and just kind of like let things, you know, let things breathe.
Hopefully somebody from Blizzard watches these podcasts. I think there's some nice ideas flowing about.
Hi, Blizzard.
Hello. All right. Well, I think we had a fair share of WoW and systems and ideas and player housing and some of that soul love for the game and ideas. But I'm going to try to do another elementary school thing here like we did with Nagura and just shoot it off like this. All right, Soul. So quick fire questions for you. What's your favorite movie of all time?
My favorite movie of all time, my most memorable movie of all time is Face Off. That movie with Travolta.
Oh shit! No way.
I remember that. That was that.
Oh, I used to love that as a kid, man.
Yeah, man. Okay. At what age did you watch that?
In the theaters. I don't know when it was, but I watched it in the theaters with my dad, and that is why.
Were you a kid?
It's memorable for me. Yeah.
All right. So fair enough. Because I remember that too, and that was like fucking shit. You know, with all the face swapping and shit of the characters, amazing stuff, man. All right. Favorite movie. Favorite musician or band?
Favorite musician or band? The one I listen to the most is a semi-local band. I think they broke up a couple years ago. They're called Yellow Card. They're based down in Southern California. I was introduced to them from a friend. She was like, "Hey, I want to go to this concert at like some bar in San Francisco. Do you want to watch?" I'm like, your friend's pretty hot, so yeah, sure, let's go. So we go. I didn't get lucky, but I did watch them, and I did listen to them, and I thought they were great. And to this day, you know, like freaking 20 years later, they're still regularly my most listened to band, before like, I don't know, Taylor Swift, Ludacris, E40, and a bunch of other rappers. But yeah, I think Yellow Card, it would be my favoritist. My favoritist band.
But okay, I never heard of them. What genre are they into? I'm gonna look them up.
They're a punk rock band.
Punk rock,
which normally I'm like, not my thing. But then when I listened to them, I was like, oh, they have like tremendous energy. They're like super into it. What the hell's that doing jumping around playing a violin? Yeah, one of the dudes plays a violin, and I liked it. I like the vibe, and like their later albums, you know, as they matured as a band, like I matured with them, and I was like, oh, this is cool. But they were like the only band that I would listen to in that genre. Everything else was like the usual, like, you know, R&B in the club, getting drunk.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like I thought you were more into the hip hop things, like punk rock. Okay.
And I am.
Right.
And I like largely that is like my most, you know, that I listen to, like. That's what I grew up with. But when it comes to like, if I had a favorite, you put a gun in my head and I'm going to choose Yellow Card.
Yellow Card. All right.
Yeah.
Favorite book ever read?
Read books. Both words. Who the fuck reads books?
When you have subtitles.
Yeah. Audiobooks? Does that count? No, you know, obviously, I'm going along this vein of what's been more memorable versus like what's my favorite.
Sure.
My most memorable book that I read was in high school. You know, the days where you were forced to read books, otherwise you failed the class. But it was a Steinbeck book called East of Eden, and I think a lot of people in the United States, they ended up reading that book. And it's a book about many things, but it had a lot of parallels with the old Cain and Abel story.
Right.
And so I had a lot of these different like religious references and takeaways. One of the things that was really memorable was this conversation that these two characters had about this discussion of a word, and how people will look at the Bible and they will, you know, translate it with their own narrative to make it fit
Yeah,
their narrative.
interpreted,
Yeah. And one of them was like, okay, here's a controversial thing. Like, here's this one word where instead, I don't think I can describe this very well because you put me on the spot with this one. It alluded to the idea that people are allowed to choose whether they can be good or bad. It's not like predetermined. It's not predestined. It's not God's plan. You can choose. But it was controversial because, according to the Bible and all that stuff, like there is a plan. There, you are predestined and all that stuff. And to me, that was kind of eye opening, and that's what made me actually less connected to religion as I was raised. I was raised a Catholic, so I got the certs and everything. But I started to kind of like go away from that and decide for myself, hey, I think I do have a choice on how I want to believe and the kind of life that I want to live. And for the most part, I want to live a good life, cut down on the murder and all that stuff.
That's always healthy to live in society.
Yeah. Just like a little bit of violence, try to shy away from the sexual assault and all that stuff, but definitely no murder, right? That's a no. That's a bad. But yeah,
I mean, that's
easily,
interesting.
Like my most memorable book.
It's interesting the impact it had on you, because obviously the books that we read, even if we get forced to read, in high school or whatever, or college or what have you, the impact is still there. I mean, you said it yourself. It was a little bit eye opening for you with the whole parallels and stuff. So that's also, I don't think us Europeans know that well. The book, what's the book called again?
It's called East of Eden. By John Steinbeck.
Because you said like a lot of Americans tend to know that, right?
Yeah, it's one of those like here in our high schools, like there's these required readings, and so there's like a selection of all sorts of books that, frankly, I forgot just about all except that one. That one I definitely remember. Like there are other ones that we're forced to read, like Of Mice and Men, and I think To Kill a Mockingbird. I think that was even at a younger age, but a lot of those I forget. But that one stuck to me because that one really cuts into, the whole semi-religious upbringing and how this book challenged that. I thought, I think back to that and it was pretty cool.
Definitely. All right. Let me ask you this: favorite or most memorable TV series you ever?
Smallville.
No,
wow. Well, there's Smallville. There's so many of them.
Okay. Give me.
Go with Smallville.
No, give me. I don't know, top three. Okay, let's get three because I feel it's pretty. So Smallville,
Babylon 5 was a huge series for me. Yeah. So Smallville, Babylon 5. That's a sci-fi series, by the way. And what first comes to my mind? Star Trek, Deep Space Nine.
Star Trek. Look at that, man. This is nobody so far has ever put Game of Thrones over there, or I don't know, Lost or Heroes or anything like that. Was that a European thing?
But I gotta decide. If you gave me a top 20, it'd probably end up on the list.
Of course. Okay, I got you.
No hate on the books though. Like the books, oh god, the books are so freaking exhaustive. They are so exhaustive. There's so many names. So many names of people, and like half of them are dead, but you want to try to remember like who they are anyway. But yeah, those would be my top three. Wow, they sounds well. Star Trek, Babylon 5, those are kind of like related, but yeah, Smallville was the first thing I said, huh?
Yeah. You did.
Can't take that back.
It's there. There's no escaping it. It's there.
I watched Smallville a lot back in high school. Was it?
Did you now? I didn't know this about you, Flam. What other secrets are you hiding here?
What other secrets are you hiding, huh?
What is it more to know about here?
After nipples. What?
Come on, man. All right, so favorite color?
Favorite color, blue.
Blue. Why blue?
Blue.
Because the sky is blue.
It's always been like more of a navy-ish blue, but I just like darker colors. Blue has always appealed to me more than like red. If we were to think of an opposite, that's really it.
Very random opposite.
It's just like how, like my lucky number is 31 because I just decided it one day, And
Perfectly
so
fine.
31 is my number. And whenever I see that number, as a coincidence, I think like, that's my number. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Or, that's, it was just like no real rhyme or reason. It just,
Yeah, man. You decided upon it. It's the best number in the world, and we're sticking to it. That's it.
it is.
Come on.
It'll be the number that ends everything. Watch. Wait until, all right, guys, here's a guy. It's a week 31 of Shadowlands, and then like everything just goes to shit. Like, oh my god, 31.
Does
And then
that
I'll
mean
be like,
that? Does that mean that patch 31 is gonna have player housing?
Patch 31.
31. God, the 31st patch of WoW just happens to have.
Oh,
What is that? 100 years of WoW?
oh man, I don't want to think about that shit, man. It's too much to process.
What? My great grandpappy. He fought against Ragnaros back in that day, and then his son and his son's son, and then now me. Now I'm fighting Cyber Ragnaros up in the Super Firelands.
Super fun.
That can you imagine the future of WoW like that? Okay, so favorite video game of all time? It cannot be World of Warcraft.
Chrono Trigger.
Chrono Trigger. Wow.
I wanted to like snap that one real quick, but that's the first one that came to mind. Love the game.
All right.
Love
Flame, you have to
game.
play Chrono Trigger if you haven't.
Yeah, I haven't played Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, you
You
haven't.
haven't played with it. Wow, you are not alive. So.
Why are you here? I mean, what's wrong with you?
There goes your gamer cred. OMG.
I mean, I think that's one of the most beautiful RPGs I ever laid my hands on too, and it's like that and Breath of Fire for me on the SNES. Like,
Oh, Breath of
very
Fire
similar.
was such a good series.
Very similar.
I still have like kind of traumatic memories.
Why?
Of the second one where I don't know if you remember this. You're trying you go to like the holy capital or whatever. Spoiler alert, by the way, guys, for this 30-year-old
30-year-old game.
but you're trying to leave like this holy capital, and then you try to leave, but then like some force prevents you from leaving, and it produced like this sound. And at the time I was playing this, it was like super late at night, and it just scared the shit out of me. It just went wow wow wow, and I was like, oh my god, and then I had to turn the lights on and everything. I'm like, oh, this is scary.
I mean,
Oh, this is supposed to be a holy town. What's going on?
yeah, that 8-bit sound really hits hard when you're all alone at night and playing that shit. But you have to give them credit, man. I have to give them. They had, I feel at that time they had one of the best soundtracks. So I haven't heard too many because I was so young, but it sounded so good. Everything.
It was great.
Yeah,
It was great.
I mean, Flame, you have to try this, man. And you love them to death.
I'm writing them down.
All right. Soul, favorite content creator doesn't have to be WoW related or whatever. Favorite content creator or creators on YouTube. Dun, 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 dun.
Fuck. I don't watch any. Ah,
Yeah, you do.
PewDiePie. No,
I was
we
expecting.
were joking about that one. My favorite.
I mean, there must be some YouTube you watch. Come on.
I don't know. Here's me copping out. One of the most memorable things that I've ever watched was the Ultimate Showdown. It's a music video that you would find on Newgrounds. This is pre-YouTube. And
Oh my God,
it's this
Newgrounds.
excellent song. Yeah, Newgrounds.
Wow, the
And
Souls.
it's called the Ultimate Showdown, and then you had like everyone was fighting each other, like Optimus Prime versus Godzilla versus Batman and all this other stuff. And it was just like this really like turd looking kind of animation, but it was like the best. It was inspiring. It was like East of Eden kind of like,
Alright.
whoa, it changed my whole outlook on life. Okay, it's not that crazy, but it's definitely like one of the best things. No, it's hard for me to think of like a content creator that's that's a favorite, but like the probably the most influential that changed my life, I guess, would be Wow Hobbs. It was the dude that did
respect
single polls of Scarlet Monastery, and I was like, I want to do that. That looks fun.
I can do that.
And so I made a paladin. I'm like, I'm gonna make a paladin just because this guy did it. And now that's like been my main for like the past 10 plus years, and I'm totally cool with that. So yeah, big shout out to Wow Hobbs. Last I checked, he was playing a lot of Hearthstone.
Yeah, I was wondering
Hearthstone.
what is he into now these days?
I don't know. It's been years, but like I checked up on him. Like, oh, what's he doing now? Oh, just Hearthstone. Oh, fuck that game. But no, all love to him. He was a big influence on what I do.
Yeah, I think he was a lot of content creators actually mentioned Total Biscuit. I mean, do you guys? I don't know. Do you remember the Azeroth Daily Show from Total Biscuit? Rest in peace. I think that was the most amazing thing I've ever saw. Like, WoW related. The most amazing. So well put together, so well paced, so well narrated. And I think it was like
and look at us, the rabble.
Yeah.
This is all that. So this is your legacy. This is your legacy, Bane. Man, I did not watch very much from him actually. Back then, I think I wasn't into like the most I was into with like WoW content creators were like the music videos. So like oh god,
PvP ones,
the Golden Danish or something. I forgot what it was called.
Oh right, like the parodies.
I don't know what it was called.
Illegal Danish.
I forget what it's called. Illegal Danish. There we go.
Yeah, that's old school.
And Nim and like some of the music videos and stuff and like do. No. That thing. Like those were memorable.
What about Cranius?
Who?
Cranius.
One more time. Cranius. That doesn't sound familiar.
Oh, you should YouTube him.
You gotta give him the link.
I probably would be like, I know what that is. Come on, man. Come on.
Made me get my main. Oh.
But during that time, I guess I just was not interested in discussion because I was such a bleeding casual. I was one of the people that Blizzard talks about now. The people that don't really watch YouTube videos or look at guides or look at Wowhead or any of that stuff. Like I would only look up Wowhead to look up an item and like that's it. And that's kind of how I am right now. Like, oh, let me look up the item. Okay, cool. Thank you, Wowhead. Salute. Bye-bye. But yeah, well, at the time I didn't really understand or know about, so I can't really say that I appreciated the work of folks like Total Biscuit at that time. I've seen some of his later stuff and I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, he's a dude that talks smack about games, just like a lot of the other ones. That's cool. But that was about it. It wasn't like, I wasn't super into it.
Well, he was, I would say, like, if you look at the, your Bellulars, your Tellius and Inevitals and all the people who still do, that type of, newsy bit, I can almost 100% guarantee like the biggest inspiration for that was Total Biscuit and the Azeroth Daily. It was more of a European thing. I think what was his channel? The Cynical Brit? What was it? Right? And he was super big into
that. Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah.
Then obviously he quit in Cataclysm. He hated Cataclysm, and then he moved on to like do other stuff like I don't know. He casted StarCraft a lot, and moved on to other games. Yeah, he did
that, and he did like a lot of variety things, different games.
But he was, I don't know. He had this vibe. I mean, I cannot ever reproduce it. But he had something that was his own and very unique and very enjoyable for a lot of people. Nevertheless, I'm derailing here. We're kind of at that moment where we would talk some more, obviously, and we did say we're going to talk a little bit about BlizzCon. So let's just close it off with a couple of thoughts and I don't know, vibes regarding what happened this year with BlizzCon. And I'm going to ask you this: do you think this BlizzCon, and this is an imported question, by the way, do you think this BlizzCon should have been an email?
No, I don't think so. Now, like really when it comes down to it, like these, like all the BlizzCons, especially ones that are off season, and by that I mean like it's not a WoW expansion announcement, all of those could have been done in like a single Wowhead article or MMO champion article or an email or whatever. There's very little to learn from off years. That's really the long and short of it. So like when seeing all the different little bits of information dripping out, followed by the interviews and everything else, and then putting all that stuff together, to me it felt like normal coverage of just any other BlizzCon, at least during those off years. Now, if this was like an expansion announcement year, that'd be totally different. I'm sure that we would see like tons and tons and tons more stuff. But it also kind of makes me worried about what's going to happen in November of this year, 2021. Is there going to be a BlizzCon at all? Are they going to just announce the next expansion during like Gamescom instead?
Do you think so?
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't have a clue. But it sounds like, you know, if I were to predict anything, I would say that they're not going to have a BlizzCon this year either. They're also not going to have a Blizzconline, and then they would just kind of like let everything like sit until BlizzCon, until they do a BlizzCon 2022, assuming that it's okay for like gatherings and things like that. A lot of it, of course, is going to be dependent on the state of the pandemic and vaccine rollouts and what local places are going to allow at that point, if it can suit large conventions and gatherings like that. It's really going to be dependent on that. But as for what we got from here, I don't think it was a big deal. If anything, Blizzard itself did its part in not trying to pretend that this is going to be some huge, stupendous event that's going to last for hours and hours and hours. Because I kind of fondly remember the DC fandom, where they announced all sorts of like DC related stuff and trailers and like some interviews and things like that. And that stretched across hours and hours and hours of content, and you would tune in live. They didn't even have video on demand. You had to like sit and like watch these things on schedule, otherwise you would miss it. And then like later on, they would have a VOD for it. But in the in between, you would get all sorts of like advertisements and commercials, and here's this from your sponsor and yada yada yada. Blizzard didn't do that. BlizzCon didn't do that. It didn't try to pretend to stretch itself out and be like, all right, now for a word from our sponsor, Power Thirst. It's the energy drink for gamers. And they would go on that, and they didn't cut to like Michelle Morrow and Malik. Hey, let's go to the announcers table. Wow, what did you think of that pre-recording, Michelle? Well, I thought that was a pre-recording, Malik. Wow, that's great. They didn't do anything like that. Yeah, they just like got to the point, and they didn't
hype it too much before either.
Yeah, actually, it was a pretty decent promotion. It was a pretty tasteful one.
Yeah.
It wasn't huge, guys, and so I think people were, some of the folks that are trying to make it seem like, oh, well, this total disappointment. I think that was them setting up their own expectations and then shooting them down, because Blizzard wasn't trying to do it.
I mean, come on.
The way that I see it, at least.
I think you cannot underestimate the announcement of Diablo 2 Resurrected. I mean, I think that alone could have held this event and made the logical, okay, we need to make this an online live event. I feel that is huge. That's just such an impactful game for a lot of people, and a lot of people were expecting a remaster for that, and for them to announce it the way they did and show it off. And I feel, I mean, I'm gonna be honest here. That was, for me, that was like the biggest thing. It's like when we saw that, it's like nerdgasm like 9,000. It's like, oh my God, it's happening.
It was palpable. Well, I mean, Diablo is let's say a controversial BlizzCon topic, since it all started with the going downhill with Diablo back in 2018, was it?
Yeah.
So now that they kind of made a turnaround where now we had 3 Diablo games in a BlizzCon, for Diablo fans, it was pretty cool. Obviously, it wasn't as big for WoW as it was for Diablo, and maybe I'm not big into Overwatch 2, but personally, I really enjoyed it, and I'm actually curious to know how much viewership they had over both YouTube and Twitch, right? Because they were streaming on both platforms, as opposed to like a BlizzCon that they hype a lot and either bombs or doesn't bomb. I really didn't have any high hopes for this one. I mean, in terms of what we knew, we were gonna have like 9.1, let's say, teasers.
But that's the thing. 9.1, what they showed was not that much, which at least a lot of the people from the content creation space kind of tend to agree, man, they're pretty early on with this shit.
Yeah.
They don't have, a lot. And if you remember previous BlizzCons, in between expansion announcements, there always was the 0.2 as well. The 0.2 was the preview. The 0.1 was this is, look at the gameplay, look at the system, look at that. It was different this time around. It was only the 0.1 preview more.
This is what I've been saying, man. It seems like they're really taking their time doing this properly, as opposed to what other expansions were. Obviously, it would ideally be for us to know a little bit more, but if they don't have it ready, might as well not box themselves in. It's like, oh, we're gonna do this, and then halfway through, it's like, actually, this doesn't work, or this is a bomb. We're gonna fix it in 2 patches.
All right. You say they're taking their time, but I'm asking Soul, are they taking their time or are they late on the schedule?
I think the timing like totally screwed things up. It started with them delaying the expansion by that 1 month, followed by them canceling BlizzCon and saying, "Hey, we're gonna do a Blizzconline thing over in February. Hey, WoW team, what do you got?" And then the team were like,
Hey, hey, Jay,
hey, let's do that. Hey, let's do BC Classic, guys. That'll get them. So I think that with regards to the timing and like marketing hype, like they just like with the game development, they try to have this formula and try to have things set up so that they can, throw a swish whenever they can. And in an off year for BlizzCon, on the WoW side of things, they can only get so much. I believe, if I recall this correctly, in 2018, they announced the Rise of Ashara patch, but they didn't show us a damn thing. It's like, hey, here's the name, woo, and that was it. And it wasn't until a number of months later when they did like that whole thing where they invited a bunch of content creators down to like test out the PTR, and then everyone flew back, and then there was like this huge media dump for that. So all that stuff was planned super meticulously, and in this case, it was just a clusterfuck. It wasn't going to come out the way that it wasn't going to come out clean. Like the 905 PTR started the week of BlizzConline. What were they going to have to show for 9.1? I was hoping that it would be more too. I was hoping for like, a cool cinematic and maybe actual footage of the zone.
Yes.
Look at weapons and little things like that, because those are things that they did that I believe they did show a little bit in 2018. So the fact that they didn't here, it does tell us that they're behind. But whether it's late or not, that's more like that's one of those talking points that we wield like a mallet and we use it to like bash on Blizzard or whatever. But this is just the reality that we're at right now. 9.1 ain't gonna be for a while. We won't have anything close to a time indicator until the 905 is released, which we have been told, okay, it's going to be in March, which could be the last week of March as well, like 30th, 31st. That's definitely a possibility. And then from there, it could be like a number of weeks, 1 to 3 weeks before the 9.1 PTR is deployed. Then we're probably going to get anywhere between 2 and 3 months of builds from there. So we're not going to see, we're more than likely not going to see anything until at least the summer. So like in June, something like that. And the question is, can players hold out? I think Blizzard's answer is, well, this is just what it is.
Kind of have
we bite the bullet.
If they can't, hey, we might have the BC Alpha.
I think that's the plan.
Or there's always classic WoW stuff that people can fall back to, and then there's just their admission that people will quit. People will quit, and then they come back, and that goes back to what we were talking about a little bit before about how Blizzard designs their game. It's designed so that people can just come back. Hey, dude, I've been, it's been like 6 months into BFA, Shadowlands, whatever the hell. Is it a good time to play? Oh yeah, dude, there's hella catch-ups, man. You can jump right back into it like no sweat. Versus, way back in the day, hey man, it's been like 6 months, so can I like jump in? Well, you probably want to join a Karazhan guild and then hope that they don't collapse before they try and get into 25 bands and all that stuff. So that's a big part of the business plan. The fact that regardless of how much content that Blizzard makes, how time-gated they make it, how hard it is to grind for, how fun it actually is, they're going to run out of shit. People are going to run out of things to do, and then they're going to quit until they feel like it's a good time to come back. And so I think that's a big part of why Blizzard makes its content the way it is, with all these gimmicky things and catch-ups and other such things, so that when people are like, hey, let me come back after like this many months, oh, okay, there's something like kind of new to check out, let's see how this is. We see people on the forums say, oh well, I tried out Shadowlands for 2 days and it's literal garbage. I've already done everything. I'm like, okay,
sure you
right.
did.
But I think the draw is that there's something like a little bit fresh going on. So we'll see what 9.1 has to offer. Because right now it feels like it's going to take this different route where, sure, there are renowned catch-ups, woo, but there's very little else that we know about with regards to legendary catch-ups, anima catch-ups. If Blizzard is going to even care about offering that to people, we'll see what that does to lure players back in. Because in this case, if there's going to be no new features mid-expansion, is that going to be enough to bring people in if they were not happy with the initial offering in 9.0?
That's actually a very good question, and it usually worked out with the so-called catch-up systems, or just catering to people playing different classes, playing alts and stuff. They kind of went that route, and they saw the reaction because they really sold it with the Shadowlands announcement, right? Like, oh, you're going to be able to play your alts more easily and catch up with everything. So they saw the reaction for that, and I'm pretty sure they're going to pound on the same cake over there, because it's one of the, I wouldn't call it the trendy things on complaining about WoW, but it's definitely something they acknowledged. So they must have some data regarding it. But I would say, hey man, it's the way Shadowlands is structured right now. Even if we get a 9.1, probably at the end of the summer, I'm literally looking at August. Ooh. Yeah, I'm looking at somewhere in August, to be honest. Yeah, realistically, I don't see it otherwise, because they don't want to release it during the vacation period. That's another thing. Like, business-wise, nobody kind of goes into that. In terms
we've been in vacation for about like a year now, right?
Yeah, but that last summer people were allowed to like go over and stuff. I don't know, like in the whole of over the world, but I know in Europe at least, people in the summer like went out. They were still, leaving the house basically, even if it was to like in the same country or in the same or in the neighboring city. They still went out on some sort of vacation to just disconnect. So if we have a lockdown, then things would be differently. But the way the vaccines and all of that, we're probably looking at maybe possibly some better times in the summer. I don't know, wishful thinking, whatever. But I don't see them launching this shit in July. I don't see it. Maybe in June, but I think
it's a very long time just having 9.0, even 9.0.5. What would that make it? 9-10 months of just the same patch? That's
well, you have 9.0.5.
This would easily be the longest season or the longest tier, first tier that WoW has seen, like ever, just about. Like most other, I think even like before the modern, before their modern formula, they've been, they were able to put something new out like within like 6 months or something like that. So for them to not have anything for that long, I don't know. Like I do wonder if the developers are being told by like the higher ups, it's like, hey, you know what, projections strongly suggest that not a lot of people are going to be playing WoW because they're going to be out and about enjoying enjoying things post pandemic and all that stuff, and maybe that could be an influence on what Blizzard is allowed to when Blizzard is going to be able to release something, and in the long term, it could be a good thing. It could, allow for a bit more polish, a couple more features. We've seen what 1 month can make a difference in with the launch, but despite people still being somewhat dissatisfied with the launch. But I don't know if that long of a drought is that good of idea. Is that good of an idea? Because it kind of expends the whole idea, their whole thing of, we have this anima stuff. It's chill. People can farm it slowly and do whatever throughout the course of the expansion.
I mean, it never.
And then all this happened.
It never really worked out. What was it? 6.2.5. What was it? 5.3. Siege of Orgrimmar, basically Hellfire, and then we had Zoth, which.
There was also Hour of Twilight. That was a long ass patch too. But that was, again, we're talking about patches that lead up to a new expansion. This is the first season.
Also, we're talking about a year of development that was 2020, which
Yeah,
all sorts of
that's another
unexpected
thing.
things. So
That's
it's
another
hard to quantify. I feel like what.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
All right.
It's hard to say. So I wonder, like, I mean, they clearly don't have anything planned for like not for 9.0.5 in terms of like, hey, let's give them something new to do. But I do think that it's a good thing that they're doing a 905 anyway. I'm glad that they're doing something like that in order to iron out some of the more immediate problems while they work on other stuff. This is because they're already buying themselves time with having this 905 patch. And now I guess we're going to see the result of this experiment. How long can people, deal with a really long season 1 of Shadowlands?
Well, we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
All right, boys. I think we've pretty much hit the mark on this one. Really fucking awesome talk. We have talked a lot about WoW. That is true. But again, we're super passionate about the game. And I think some pretty amazing ideas have flown about. So
keep it natural.
Yeah, man. Soul, it's always a pleasure talking to you, having all these great conversations and WoW and other stuff.
Especially picking the brain, and you can definitely catch Soul, guys, right over here. You can see his YouTube and Twitch, and you're gonna find some cool stuff. I mean, you've heard the man's voice. Come on.
Yeah, man. It's all you need. Plus, if you're feeling lost on any week on what's to come, Soul's the man to see. Just check it out. all right. Let's make the closing chapter here. I think we're not gonna be able to drive home, man.
Yeah, I'm looking.
All right. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you for listening on all of the platforms where you're listening to or watching on YouTube. Remember, we post this stuff every Monday. So that being said, we shall see you on next Monday with a brand new guest. All in all, the guest. We'll see you.
For episode 6 of the MoCast podcast.
Season 2, baby. Have a great week ahead, everybody.
Everybody.
Still I play WoW.